What is going on, wildlife warriors? I am beyond grateful that you are joining me today. My name is Felipe D'Andrade. I am a National Geographic explorer, and I could not be any more stoked than to be sharing with you guys, the beautiful people that support us at National Geographic, something that we're trying that has never, ever been done before. What we're attempting today is to do an Instagram live from around the world, all 7 continents. We have explorers in Antarctica, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, all to bring you beautiful stories of hope, of conservation, of inspiration during these amazing times where we as human beings have the ability to do something about what's happening to our beautiful big blue planet. So thanks in partnership to you guys, the audience watching at home. Again, we're going to attempt something that's never been done before. An Instagram live in all 7 continents. My name is Felipe D'Andrade, and as a National Geographic explorer, I hold that title very close to my heart. I have 2 grants. One is a tiger research grant in the Bahamas with Beneath the Waves and Dr. Austin Gallagher. And the second is an environmental education grant in Costa Rica, where we are looking to implement environmental education into the entire Costa Rican school system. And today, we are at the base camp of Nature Trust of the Americas. I want to throw them a shout out. Thank you for donating their base camp to make this possible. You can see these beautiful Nat Geo magazines behind me, and everything about this base camp screams exploration, excitement, and world travels. And what better place than Miami, Florida, the 51st state. It's another country. The salsa is out of this world with inspiration. The beauty that surrounds Miami and the wildlife is what I'm particularly interested in. So I can't think of a better base camp that clashes between human and animals than right here in Miami, Florida. So without further ado, we're going to jump in to the first location on this Instagram live. And I have to mention that, again, it's because of people like you. And live experiences like this are brought to you guys and funded through the subscriptions that you sign up for by visiting natgeo.com/Instagram. Again, that's natgeo.com/Instagram. And when you guys sign up for subscriptions, we can bring you more stories, more adventures like this. You guys ready to go? You ready to jump in our first location? This one is close to my heart. It's in Costa Rica, and it's with the Jaguar Rescue Center. I'm going to bring them in right now, and let's go see what animals they have. You guys ready for this? Service looks good. Everything sounds good. Pura vida!
Hi, Felipe.
How are you? Very well. Look at that beautiful, lush green surrounding that you're in right now. Who are you joined by?
Well, I'm surrounding of rainforest, and I'm surrounding of sloths and a tiny howler monkey here. Georgie.
You've got a howler monkey.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can we get a nice close-up of that beautiful animal right there? Wow, look at those eyes. That is spectacular. Hi, baby. Okay. I jumped the gun here. I'm super excited to be joining you guys. So tell us your name, tell us what you do, and tell us the mission of the Jaguar Rescue Center.
My name is Enkar, and I'm the founder and the main biologist of the Jaguar Rescue Center here in the Caribbean south of Costa Rica, one of the most beautiful places on earth. You know already. So our first goal is rescue, release animals back into the wild. So rescue, rehabilitate them, and release them back into the wild. Actually, we have more or less, we receive around 2-3 animals every day. That is like 800 animals a year that needs our help.
Sorry, I'm just distracted by that tug-of-war match happening right now with the leaves. Can you guys bring the camera a little bit so we can get a nice close-up of that?
Yeah, these guys are 2-toed sloths, and all of them are orphan babies. And they came here or because the mom was died in a attack by a dog, or because the mom was hit by a car, or a lot of times the moms got electrocuted in a power lines on a wires. It's one of the main reasons.
Wow. And so that plant that they're eating right there, is that part of their natural diet? Did you guys create
Yes,
this environment to replicate what they would have, or is the
always.
sanctuary just nature?
Yeah, they are eating almonds right now. Is called almond tree. That is very very common close to the beach. Is one of the favorite food. It's like chocolate for us a little bit. So they love it. And of course, to teach us love to be wild again is kind of complicated, because I can be like a surrogate mother, but it's complicated. Climb to the trees, eat leaves. So we have always to think to figure it out how to teach them. And of course, one of the most important things is the food, you know, uh, because they start when they are so babies with milk, like this tiny baby. We use milk, but after a while, they have to eat leaves and other kind of things that they are gonna get into the wild. But join me if you want, Felipe, and I would like to show you other animals around my home.
I would love to see that. I believe that you get to call that beautiful place home. Buddha Vida at its finest.
Well, actually, we have Chai here that is enjoying the same leaves too. It's one of our residents. The white-tailed deer is is endangered here in Costa Rica, and unfortunately, in a rescue center, we have animals that is not possible to release back into the wild because they are too humanized, like this deer, or because they have, like injuries, won't like don't allow them to be released, like without one arm or one leg or wherever. So here we have the howler monkeys that they are on the school time. You can see here up
Oh, wow. They're really
one of
active right
our
now.
little ones. So in a couple of months, the baby that I have here in my pouch is gonna be here with them. It's gonna join them. And we call it school time because they learn how to be a howler monkeys again. So the one that you have here in front is Harvey, and Harvey's mother was electrocuted too, and a wires is why we have a partnership with the electrical company and Java Rescue Center, and we are buying the materials and the tools for isolated the wires and the transformers. So in the last 3 years, we've been doing that with a great success because we were able to change at least 25 transformers and a lot of kilometers of wires and cables around this town, around Puerto Viejo de Limón.
Wow, that's incredible. And so unfortunately, those animals ended up in your care because of human animal conflict and because of development. But obviously, they have a natural environment. You guys have built something beautiful for them there to, like you said, allow them to be howler monkeys. How important is it for animals in a sanctuary like yours to have those natural interactions so that when they go back into the wild, they know how to behave as wild animals?
It's super important, Philippe. So for us, release them back into the wild is the most important thing. Animals, wild animals, don't have to be a pet, never. And don't have to be in a zoo forever with the excuse that the mother died and they are orphan babies and it's not possible to release. If not, it's possible to release them. But you need a lot of time and a lot of patience. So that tiny baby, Georges, that I have here at the pouch, is going to be here with us for at least 2 years, 2.5 years. But to teach them how to be monkeys again, is like bring them the opportunities to be in the forest, like now, we start very step by step. But all our monkeys go to the forest few hours a day and they come back in the afternoon, and that is super cool.
That is amazing. And so the howler monkey is one of my favorite primates in the world. And they're called the howler monkeys because their call can be heard from up to 4 miles away, right?
Yeah, exactly. The males have that special bone, the hyoidine bone, that is larger than a normal primate and is able to do very, very loud sounds. But
Wow.
I was wondering if you are able to do that. Maybe you
All
can
right.
talk with Georges.
I'm going to give my best
It's
howler
a
monkey
challenge.
impersonation. You ready for it? Here we
I'm
go.
ready.
Did that get his?
I don't know if
Impressed.
George is agree about that or not, but you impress me. So I'm gonna hire you here for teach my howler monkeys how to do that in the future. So great.
Is amazing. And did I see some scarlet macaws over there too?
Yes, we have always our macaws. That is a green macaw that unfortunately was falling from the nest and the shoulder was broken. It was impossible to fix it, and it's gonna be here in our sanctuary forever. Yeah.
Okay, and then you've got the green and then the scarlet, and you can obviously tell the color difference. So what's this guy's story right here?
Well, this one it was a pet, Felipe. Yeah, it's one of the main reasons why the parrots and macaws arrive here in our center. You know, there are a lot of still traffic, black market with these guys because they are too beautiful. But yeah, it's a disaster. And this one was a pet for a long time, so it's not able to be released. Doesn't know
Yeah.
anything, you know, how to survive into the wild.
And so that's something that you've been so important is to not keep wild animals as pets. So as we're wrapping up with you guys, can you talk about one, why it's important to not have these exotic pets? And then two, if people want to get involved with the Jaguar Rescue Center, what can they do to help you guys?
Well, you know, have a wild animals, any wild animal as a pet, a monkey, a parrot, or a coati, or wherever, is a super bad idea. And because you are supporting, you know, black market, you have to think that for have one tiny baby monkey or on a slaughter at home, you maybe the guys, the poachers, need to kill I don't know how many. Okay, so don't support that, please. Never pay or never even do a selfie with a wild animal if you visit Costa Rica or other countries like this. So, guys,
I
and
love it.
for support the
Take a
Java
selfie
Rescue
with.
Center, yeah, Georges is a little bit upset today. I think he's hungry. So, if you want to help us, I think there are a lot of different ways. So, after the coronavirus, that hopefully is soon, you can come back to visit us just for to do a tour that I'm waiting for you, Felipe, or a volunteer. Be a volunteer at the Java Rescue Center. That is super cool. Now, actually, we don't have almost any volunteers, so we have to work very hard. And of course, the best way to help us right now that we don't have any tourists and any volunteer is donating in our webpage, following us in Instagram or Facebook because we need your help. So help you please to help us. Thank you so much for that opportunity.
Thank you guys. Jaguar Rescue Center. And again, if you guys want to give them a follow, that's the Jaguar Rescue Center. They're located in Costa Rica. And as you can see, they're doing amazing things. They're helping these animals get released back into the wild, which is incredible. I couldn't think of a better place to start. Oh, look at that. Oh, that beautiful baby howler monkey. All right. So we'll leave you guys with that image. And again, that's the Jaguar Rescue Center.
Thank
Your
you.
efforts.
Pura vida.
Pura vida, mi amiga.
Pura vida.
Wow, that is amazing. Isn't that incredible? Like the level of technology. We are finally at a place as society, as a species, where technology has caught up to creativity. Think about that. We just jumped on the other side of the world on an Instagram Live, and we got to hear beautiful, amazing conservation stories, and we're going to keep the train rolling. So for our second location, we are visiting an amazing explorer, an amazing photographer and conservationist named Tasmin. We are going to go over to Saudi Arabia and see what she's working on, and I'm going to bring her in now. Let me do this for you guys. All right. Waiting for Tasmin. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Wow, your signal looks amazing. You look amazing.
Thank you.
Behind you, loving this. So talk to me. Who are we? Where are we at right now?
So my name is Taslima Sultan. I'm a photographer that usually focuses on social and gender issues in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, and I'm very happy to be here today in Riyadh, the capital city of Saudi Arabia. And behind me is a valley. It's called Wadi Hanifa. Wadi is the valley, and Hanifa is the biggest tribe that is centuries and centuries back, pre-Islamic history. Because I usually love telling stories, so I thought of telling you the story of this location behind me. So pre-Islam, it is said that the people here were, angered God, and because of that, there was a pollution of locusts, and they ate all the crops, and then there was a drought, and people died. But with technology right now and a lot of science, we understand that it's just basically global warming that help. Like basically, that's why a lot of people kind of suffered from having the decline of rainwater. One of the things to know is that Riyadh, the capital city of Saudi Arabia, only 30 years ago in the 80s, had 150,000 people, a population here, and now it has over 5 million people. So what does that mean? That means that a lot of the water here is actually very rare. We don't have any flowing rivers in the country. So we are using and kind of relying on seawater being desalinated and imported for 4 hours from the coast of Saudi all the way to Riyadh. Again, this is a lot of impact on the environment. So that is why a lot of changes have been happening. Is it enough? Is it enough for one country to make that change? So for instance, Saudi is very famous for relying on oil, and a lot of changes are happening. So now we're looking at solar power, we're looking at other kind of resources. But I've done a lot of reading now, and I realize that it's not enough for one country to do that. All of us have to make that change, and even 1 degree of kind of change and elevation in global warming actually is a disaster for all of us.
Wow, that's so right. That's a lot to take in. I mean, you say it so eloquently, beautifully, and honestly inspiring. I mean, to know that that's your home and you're over there and you're working. And did you have a education? Do you have a background here in the States or in the Western world? And then you decided to go back, or?
Yeah, so I was born in US in Tucson, Arizona, another desert, and I was educated in England. I studied English literature and social anthropology. And then a few years ago, I moved back to the Middle East with my parents, and I realized that there's so many stories here that I have to tell as a local. There's so many issues that are very important, but sometimes, kind of reading a book or being educated in a way that's not always easy for everyone to understand. So that's why I feel that it's very important for me as a Saudi to speak in Arabic, to tell the stories of my people, and to kind of share them. And, I remember a few times we spoke, I mentioned to you that I'm a single mom and I have teenager daughters. And I realized that with global warming, a lot of the time that their generation is so much more eloquent and educated on how they can actually make an impact in things that are so simple and that we didn't understand. For instance, like just not cutting back on meats, and how that actually has a lot of effect, using less plastic. So simple things that me and you can kind of take a little bit of a change. If we all used less electricity, less water, that actually has a much better, much more bigger impact than we expected any day.
Yeah, that's incredible to think about. And I mean, you're obviously intelligent, aware, and conscious enough to have this Western education background, but then do what a lot of people don't do and go back home, go back to your roots in a way and to share those stories. I think it's something that we need a little bit more of. So thank you for being an example in that way. And as a mom, I mean, I was raised by a single mother, and, she instilled the desire, the passion, the interest to explore the natural world and to not allow your to define you. So on a personal level, like, I can't tell you enough how what you're doing is important. These beautiful young women that you're raising into the world to go forth and carry that education and to inspire others. I'm sure there's a lot of parents watching right now, a lot of kids watching. That relationship, that dynamic is vital. So thank you for me personally, and I'm sure from a lot of people watching this. So
I'm glad.
Can you tell us, the exterior, the environment? Like, I want to see like what we're taking in right now, what your view is.
Yeah, so this is the valley itself that's very famous in Riyadh. And this was also a wasteland, if you can imagine, only 30 years ago. And then the government realized that this was very, very important. A lot of spring water is here. So if we zoom close, for instance, you can see that the spring water is used to kind of for the irrigation of all of this farmland. So this is not owned by one family, but like many, many other families. Also, some other changes happened. They realized that, for instance, palm trees, or date trees, I would like to call them. Can you see that? So this fruit that is very important in Saudi, and it's exported across the world. and they're amazing. They're very, very yummy. And summer is the time that, they're fresh. But basically, all of these dates trees are really helpful because they actually retain the less amount of water. So they don't use all the spring water that's needed from the ground. Other things that have happened, for instance, that these, not just the trees or the farms, but like other implementations by the government. For instance, not anyone can buy land here. So, you can see over there the city horizon all the way. It's very dusty today, but there you can see all the towers a little bit in the background. But yeah, can you see?
Yeah, we can actually, I can see the make out of the building there in the distance. So I didn't realize, I thought honestly we're like in the middle of nowhere, it was completely desolate, but when you zoom in like that, we can see the outline of the buildings. It's wild.
Yeah.
That's,
These homes,
like how
yeah, these homes didn't exist over just less than 10 years ago, and now they're everywhere. So that's also like with a lot of humans, a lot of people coming into the capital city, they also kind of realize that, yes, of course, water is very important, but how do we make people raise awareness? So right now we have the season of Green Riyadh. So everyone knows that this, growing plants is very important, obviously, and also being aware of how we can use picnic places in this park. So now the picnics are all the parks are closed basically, and there's no family picnics because we're still locked in. We have a curfew at 8 p.m. because of COVID, but usually this time of year, the average is 44 degrees in the heat in the summer, which is a lot. And I also wanted to share that in the last 30 years, because of global warming, because of this increase in temperature, 150,000 people have died in this country because of, either water not being available or their crops dying. So humans are affected across the globe. This is how much I know in my own country, but I know everywhere. I'm privileged that I have, clean water and we can shower and we have electricity, etc. But I know that this is affecting a lot of countries across the world in ways that we can't imagine.
And so what do you think are next, I've to get involved, or what actions can people take in their daily, intimate life surrounding areas to impact the world in a positive way as you're talking about these things?
Read. I can't say how enough that is. Watch a lot of documentaries on how that it's important. I mean, my daughters are 13 and 15 years old right now, and they've started educating me and other people who are across the world, for instance, like Greta Thunberg, and how, youth can actually take more action and be more aware than my generation or my parents' generation is. My parents' generation was very much relying on the oil industry, and now even in my generation, we realize that we're weaning ourselves off, slowly, but it's still going to happen. And hopefully by my daughter's generation, they will no longer be reliant on the oil industry. Drive less cars, bike, go on picnics, and use less air conditioners, use less straws and plastic. It's small things, but me and you and everyone around us actually take action.
Yeah, you're amazing. Well, that's perfect. And I think the signal's cutting out a little bit on your end, so that's a perfect time to switch over. We're going to jump to our third location, but Tasneem, beautiful area. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. And yeah, I can't say enough how proud I am of what you're doing and to be part of the Nat Geo family because of people like you. So thank you for all your efforts and thank you for what you're doing. We'll check it. All right, so Tasneem over in Saudi Arabia, we've got Costa Rica covered, in Central/South America, we've got the Middle East covered, and we're gonna keep the train going. And for the third location, an area that was my dreamland. My first assignment was to go over to Africa and document with National Geographic. And so for me, I read Jane Goodall's Through the Window when I was 12, and Africa became the dream. So for our third location, for our third world, for our third continent, we're going to jump over to Africa. And we're going to visit with some amazing conservationists doing wonderful things, conserving some endangered species. So I just invited them in. We're going to wait until they come on, and it's connecting right now.
Hey, Felipe.
How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Very, very well. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. So talk to me, man. Where are we? What are we doing? What are we seeing? What's the area like?
Yeah, so we are in Olpejeta Conservancy. My name is James Mwenda. Here I have my colleagues, Peter and Jimmy, right behind there. And we are in the endangered species enclosure in Olpejeta Conservancy, where we have the last two known northern white rhino to exist on the planet. And it's a beautiful evening. We are in the equator, around the equator, in the northern parts of Kenya.
Wow, wow, in the northern part of Kenya. And so I'm sure, like me, everybody else at home wants to see what you guys are looking at right now. You said northern white rhinos. Do you guys have any around you?
Yes, so they are quite right in front of me. They are having their evening snack. As you can see, we supplement them every evening with some pellets, some carrots, and just to make sure that they always stay in shape. You can see they're having a bit of a push because they are enjoying their snacks. That's always happens. But the one on the right is Najin, the elder northern white rhino. She's 30 years old. And the one that is pushing her is the daughter. She's 20 years old. Her name is Fatu. And their relationship is mother-daughter.
Mother-daughter, that's beautiful. And so there's not a lot of these animals left. So talk to us about how challenging it is, to conserve them, to create the right habitat, and to also protect them. Have you guys had any run-ins with poachers at the sanctuary?
Yeah, I think poaching is the greatest threat to us. The fact that we have these last two known northern white rhino. We are also the largest black rhino sanctuary in Eastern Central Africa. We have over 130 black rhinos in our conservancy, which makes it now a high risk. And so we normally have threats to poaching, and we always have to be very vigilant to make sure that at least we protect these animals, as well as now the emotional toll that comes with making sure that these animals, we can guarantee them a hope. And that's now why we are looking, to go into artificial reproductive techniques like in vitro fertilization to save these northern white rhinos.
Wow. Do you think we can get the camera guy to come in close to get a nice, beautiful close-up of the eye, or is that invading the space a little bit? Do we have to social distance, or can we get a little bit in there?
Yeah, we can get a little bit close, but my signal is a very bit limited here in the bush, so only we get it in patches. But I can try to get a nicer close-up look of the Najin here. As you can see the eyes, you can see the horn. It's growing back again. We had trimmed it at some point. You can see the ears up there, and then you can see the legs. She's standing on a bit of hay that we supplement them every evening. And
beautiful image right there. That's how we should be seeing all rhinos, is horn intact, is peaceful, as they are in nature. And can you talk a little bit about, because I know that in some cultures, there's this idea that the horn has medical value, but I mean, we know that now through science that that's completely false, right?
Yeah, it's completely false. It's just mates that have been there for over a long period of times, and it's been scientifically proven that the horns have no medicinal aspects, and that's the reason why they have decimated over 20,000 black rhinos in Kenya alone by 1970, 1990, and it's purely keratin, just like our fingernails and our hair. Nothing more that is there in a rhino horn than just keratin that we carry with our hairs and our fingernails.
Wow. And so talk us about like what your work is specifically. Like you talked about the, species preservation, like holding on to some of the genetics of the animal, but on a day-to-day basis, what does that mean? Like, are you guys interacting with the animals? Are you just providing them food and space? Or what are some of the things that you guys do at the sanctuary?
So our job, especially with caretaking, is making sure that these animals are well looked after. They came from a zoo in Czech Republic, so they have to have like human contact to just make sure that their day-to-day life is looked after. But in general, having the largest population of black rhinos in the conservancy, we have to be very vigilant on what is happening around. We have to do rhino monitoring every day. We have to do tracking to make sure that all the animals are safe. So it's a really, really big effort that we have to put to make sure that at least these rhinos are safe, because we still believe that someone would still want to come and kill, even they are the last of their kind. someone will still want to get their horns, which they believe would fetch even a greater value in the market because they're the last of their kind. So our days entails also giving educational talks, because we have people can come and volunteer with us. We have volunteers coming to, have an hands-on experience here. So we get to engage with them. We also have visitors to come and see these rhinos. You can come and see them when the travel is open. People always come to visit and see them. So we have all those activities that we do on a day-to-day basis, just to also make sure that at least what these rhinos represent in terms of species extinction is really relayed to us, especially we as the contemporary humans, and make sure that we really comprehend that extinction is this real. We are watching it every day. We are witnessing it every day. And so when people come to visit, they are able to get a taste of what it feels. Look at this beautiful animal, but it's just the last two of their kind. And I think that helps us to realize that we need to rise up and protect our planet altogether.
So beautifully said, man. That's absolutely right. And that's what we at National Geographic are trying to do every day is, share these wild stories from these beautiful creatures. But not just that. I mean, share your story. You know what I mean? Like what you guys are doing and your efforts in conserving these animals, it's important biologically speaking, but, on a heritage level, I want to know why you were drawn into this field of work, why you were drawn to conservation and, to these animals specifically. So why do you do what you do?
I grew up in a high human-wildlife conflict area, that at the age of 7, I had made a decision that I wanted to understand elephants and animals at large to go and help my community. And that is what drove me to be in conservation. Luckily, the government was able to fence my area where we had elephants. But now I decided to switch over and come on this side of the world to make sure that now I look at these animals. So that was drove me to be here. And again, I really got inspired by being here at a young age, watching extinction on an everyday basis, and realized that there needs to be more, to rise up and share the experiences of being here to just make sure that the world understands what extinction is all about.
Man, that's beautiful. And I can't thank you enough for your efforts. I can't thank you for what you guys are doing over there. The next time I'm in Africa, the next time I'm in Kenya, I'm going to come visit you guys personally. And I want to keep sharing the story of what you and these beautiful animals are going through. And I got to say, I'm sure everybody watching this would agree, man, you're the Kenyan, you're the African Attenborough. Dude, your voice is perfect, man. I can see you narrating wildlife films in the future, beyond the work that you're doing. I think you got another calling as well.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. And it takes a team. As I said, we have what I want to introduce you. That's my team member, Jimmy. And we have a very tall guy here. He's called Peter. He's a head caretaker. And then there's one behind there also, making sure the rhinos are safe. So we are a big team here in Opegeta Conservancy to just make sure these animals are safe. And I also really appreciate, I think it's time that we stand up as young people and tell the reality of the planet that we want to be in right now and in the years to come. So I think we have a big responsibility to make sure we shout out and share these stories.
Amazing. Well, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate what you guys are doing. And again, from National Geographic, it's why we support your efforts, because it's about preserving our beautiful one planet, what we call home. You know what I mean? We're of nature, not just a part of it. And so again, I can't thank you for what you guys are doing. Keep up the amazing effort, and I can't wait to come and see you guys.
Yeah, you're so welcome, and we welcome everyone else to come and join us. People can also follow us on Opegeta Conservancy. We normally doing also day-to-day sofa safaris where people can watch different aspects of our conservation on our various social media platforms. And we are looking forward to welcome everyone here once everything is open up.
Amazing. Keep up the great efforts, brother. I'll check in with you later, man. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you. Bye.
Woo! All right. So we got to see Jaguar Rescue Center. We got to jump over into Middle East. We got to go to Africa. And for the fourth location, I hope you guys got your jackets. I hope you got your layers. When I first moved from Brazil, the country where I was born in, and went over to Ohio, I thought I got off the plane and I was in Narnia. I was like a piece of lasagna. I had to have 9 layers on because it was so cold. But that experience does not at all compare to the temperatures that we're about to jump into right now. For our 4th location, we're going to Antarctica. And I'm going to bring them in right now because I think they're standing outside, so they might be a little bit chilly. Let's invite them in for some hot cocoa, maybe with a little bit of spirits. And we're going to go join the European Space Agency and say what's up to them. You guys alive, warm, and well? Hope you're not a snowman at this point. What's going on, brother?
Hello, good night from Concordia Station. Here all is well.
Good.
So my name is Stijn Tode. I'm the research doctor here on the station this year, which means I perform biomedical experiments on myself and on the crew to understand how it is to live in a strange environment like this here. So what I would like to do for you is I would like... Sorry?
You're your own guinea pig.
A little bit. A little bit. So what I would like to do is I would like to show you in the next few minutes our station. But before that, I thought it would be interesting to have a quick look outside. So let me turn around the video. So this is our big freezer door, the main entrance of our station. So if I go outside, it looks like this.
Wow. Walking outside right now, that's a brave human being right there.
That's Alberto, just coming up. Hi, Alberto. So Concordia is one of the 3 stations in the middle of the Antarctic continent that operates year-round for science, and that's kind of interesting because for 9 months of the year it's not possible for any transport to get in or out of the station. So let me show you. This is our station. 2 towers.
Man, I can see your breath. That looks cold. Dude, I'm freezing looking at where you're at.
Yeah, it's very cold, so let me go back inside. And it's also dark.
Make sure you don't lock yourself.
No, I think we're good. So it's also very dark. I think we're now in a period of time where we don't have sun for 3 months, no direct sunlight, and everywhere around us is basically 1,000 kilometers of ice. So it's a big icy desert. There's no vegetation. There's no animals. No weather changes. And if you look,
can we take a look at your colleague right there, delayering? I want to see how many layers they have.
Right. So here you see the temperature, minus 88.5 right now. And Alberto, where did you just come from?
Oh, I just came from Shelter Physics, one of our laboratories.
Okay. What are you wearing? Philip is asking.
That's exploration on another level. Give me a photo of what you're wearing.
The lamp, because it's always night here, and many layers of glow, 2, 3, and after muffler, very heavy, and when cap, one, sometimes 2 or 3 passo montagne. It depends on the wind, of course, and after very special boots that
big boots
are good also at minus 100.
Right. And the radio, not to forget.
Oh, the radio is most important for this.
Does he have icicles in his beard? Can we maybe get a close up of that lion's mane that he's got going on?
No, it's okay now. It melts very fast once you're inside.
I'm into the bike.
So what I would like to do is show you around in the station. So I'm walking into the quiet tower right now, and this is where we all have our quiet activities, which means this is where we sleep. This is where we work in laboratory. So I'm going up the stairs to the first floor and directly to the second. And you can hear from my breath, I have a bit of difficulty breathing because we're also at high altitude. So it's an equivalent of 3,800 meters at the equator. You need to be a little silent. This is the sleeping room. So I go to the second floor. And it's not just these extreme conditions, but also the isolation, being here. And even if we wish to be rescued, we can't. Because I said it's not possible to have any people in or out. We're confined in these towers. And it makes it look a little bit like living in a future space habitat, you could say. So this is why ESA is interested in doing research here. And this is the ESA lab where I work. So we do research in, well, we look at changes in blood volume as a result of acclimatization to the high altitude. And need to catch some breath. And we also look at changes in. Can you repeat that? Sorry.
I said you're just tired from walking up the stairs, huh? So you're really, that elevation is affecting the cold?
Right. Well, there's about 40% less oxygen here. So yes, you can imagine just walking up the stairs is already something that takes my breath away. So yeah, we also look, for example, at changes in the immune system and the gut bacteria, because you can imagine here, there's no new viruses, no new bacteria that stimulate our immune system, you could say. So it's something that can make us vulnerable for infections, for even developing allergies. So it's kind of interesting. Also, we look at mindfulness, for example, to look how that can be used as a tool to psychologically adapt to a place like this. Also for deep space missions. But let me also show you some other places here in the station. So this is the radio room next to the ESA lab. This is where our ICT specialist is sitting. So there we have Luca.
What's
He's
up?
here to.
Okay, and more layers.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Is that where you guys communicate with the rest of the world? Is right there in that room?
Exactly. So Luca makes sure we are connected to the rest of the world, that we are covered by radio when we go outside, which is kind of important to be safe. We have always somebody looking after us. It's not only ESA doing research here, so this is a glaciology lab, looking at snow and ice properties to learn more about our climate. And there's all kinds of other science here. So think about astronomy, geosciences, atmospheric physics. So here's another lab, more labs. So this is where we work. So let me go downstairs again and slowly walk towards the noisy building, and that's where we have our noisy activities. So it's kind of where we have our social activities. So I need to be quiet again because this is where the people might be sleeping.
So what does that do for conservation? Like, how do you get active in conservation, and how can you relate your findings back to people like me, back to people like watching this, in a way that they can get involved with what you guys are doing and apply all those things that you're learning to benefit their surroundings?
All right, you have to repeat for me that question, sorry. Conservation, in which sense?
So in any sense, what you guys are doing scientifically, how can that help us make more decisions to impact the world around us?
Okay, let me turn around. So one of the projects here, and I'm not a glaciologist, but that's been set up here and that the station has come out from, is a big ice core drilling project where they drilled into the ice very deep, about 3,000 or 2,000 meters, to look back into how our climate has looked, I think, about 800,000 years ago. And it's kind of interesting because we're learning about how our climate has looked and how that relates to the changes we're seeing now. So that's kind of an interesting thing. If you look, for example, at what ESA is doing, it's a whole other way of thinking, but we look at what environments can do to our health. So being here, for example, you sometimes see that people can have issues with sleeping or getting fatigue or getting cognitive issues or problems with each other even. And learning about how such extreme environment affects us is for us interesting to learn how it is to go to other, for future space missions, you could say. And a lot of this research can be applied back to life on Earth. Think about what I said about the immune system, for example, how that changes when you're understimulated, and what is happening maybe nowadays in the world where we are maybe very hygienic and maybe understimulate our immune systems as well. So you see a lot of relationships between these things, and this is quite interesting. So from even on a place like this, the knowledge we gain, I think we're learning a lot. So
Awesome, man.
in the meantime, I'm
so I've got about one more minute with you.
Okay.
So what can people do to get involved? How can they follow along with what you're finding? And again, just in a way to like bring it back to what they're doing, like how would you say that people can research more of what you're doing and apply it to their lives?
Well, one thing maybe nowadays is interesting is we're learning here to deal with isolation and confinement, and that's something we're all experiencing a little bit right now. And some of the research we're doing here is about how do we deal with each other, and defining from that, you know, also being together with a small group is something that we learn a lot about also for ourselves to how do you say, to you know, to understand better the other people, especially in a place like this. It's important when you're together to understand this. And for me, this is a very, very valuable lesson. I think it's something that people can take in mind from what we're doing here, is keeping in mind that there's a lot of other people probably with good intentions that you have to work together with. And I think when we come back home, this is going to be interesting to see how it is to see people working together and how we can improve that. So I think for me, it's kind of a cool training, so to say.
Amazing.
I'm in the meantime,
well, thank you guys.
I'm in the tower, and I thought it would be cool to show to you our crew, because we're in the living room and people are having fun, as you can see. Guys, say hello to the world.
Positive, introduce a little bit of spirits and games.
We're celebrating our midwinter right now, just before we're at the lowest, when the sun is at its lowest point, before it goes back up and we get our light again. So for us, these are evenings that are kind of fun to celebrate together and have some fun together. So that's what we're going to do now. And I think it's also time for them a little bit.
Amazing, man. Well, thank you guys so much for what you're doing. Thank you for relating that back to us. Hey, man, stay warm. You know, I want to check in with you guys in a little bit, and I want to see the beard grow like your partners.
All right, will do. It's good. And thanks very much. And have fun with the other one, with the other streams.
All right, chat soon, brother.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, so, I mean, who else in the world can bring you into the European Space Agency where they've been quarantining for months? If, you know, I thought I had it bad. I mean, I had double stuffed Oreos on the regular. You know, I could still order takeout. I'm surrounded by wildlife here in Miami. So really, comparatively, I don't think most of us have it as bad, you know, during this quarantine session as some others. Could you imagine being trapped in Narnia, you know, in what, 40 below degrees at that elevation? I mean, he was a healthy dude, and he was getting out of air, you know, out of oxygen, tired just from walking up the stairs. So keeping that in perspective is amazing. And for this next one, I couldn't be more elated to be joining efforts with National Geographic Society, with Nat Geo Partners, and with NASA. So let's go check over into NASA and see what they're up to. Are they out of this world? Are they doing something amazing? They just launched a shuttle here in Florida. Let's go see what they're up to.
Oh.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
What are you guys up to over there? You look like you're on this stratosphere.
Yeah, so we're here in the boreal ecosystem. Unlike in Antarctica, where it's 24 hours of darkness, we actually have 24 hours of sunlight. And unlike in Antarctica, we have a different cryosphere here, which is composed of permafrost. So underneath our feet is the hidden cryosphere, which is dirty, dusty, ancient, smelly, and we're out here researching it.
Man, it looks a heck of a lot prettier than how you just explained it. You think you can turn the camera around for a second so we can take in that environment, see what you guys are looking at?
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, we don't have smell-o-vision here on Instagram yet. I think that's going to be an update. But from what it looks like, it looks beautiful, fresh air, outdoors. So talk to us about your lab and more specifically what you guys are doing there and how you can relate that back to conservation and what we humans in this can do to apply your learnings.
Yeah, so this environment is definitely worth conserving because the permafrost is actually a large carbon freezer. It stores a tremendous amount of stored organic carbon, which is in the form of ancient plants. So woolly mammoths were chewing on these stems 30,000 years ago. But like the woolly mammoth and the carbon it was chewing on, it's all now compactified in these thick permafrost deposits, which are held together by ice. And so as the climate is warming, the Arctic is warming actually twice as fast the global rate. So we call that polar amplification. And that's starting to collapse the permafrost, which this lake is not a usual lake. It doesn't have a sandy beach. You wouldn't want to go on vacation here. And it's essentially a collapsed permafrost lake that is now emitting this carbon that's been stored here since the last ice age. And so now it's also emitting methane, which is about 30 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. And so it's worth conserving because if this carbon were to transform into the atmosphere, then it's kind of like added interest with climate change. It can lead to further warming, which leads to more wetlands, which leads to more methane, and that can lead to more warming, which is like a conveyor belt or a feedback. And so there's about 3 million of these lakes, and they're each emitting methane at different rates. And so we're out here investigating how much methane, how much carbon is being released. We're kind of like carbon accountants looking at a carbon budget, the sources and sinks. And to do that, we work with NASA to investigate these ecosystems and ecotypes. So you can see the different vegetation here, different water levels, different conditions, different carbon reserves. And so NASA flies over with airborne lasers and instruments and does just an incredible investigation of these landforms with also satellites. And so we work with the Arctic Boreal Vulnerability Experiment that tries to understand the resilience or vulnerability of these ecosystems. And so I'm out here working at the field site to validate those measurements. And actually, Natalie will tell you more about the spaceborne campaigns.
Amazing. What's up, Natalie?
Hey. So yeah, here. Sorry. Let's do a little transition here.
Okay, yeah.
So, no worries.
We're kind of juggling and dancing between these different tussocks around here, so finding good footing's a little tricky. So yeah, like Nick was talking about, we do ground investigations out here to look at this methane that's coming out of environments like this. And so from my perspective, so I look at things through satellite imagery. And so methane is actually bubbling out of this lake. And it's interesting because during the winter time, as the ice forms on the lake and the bubbles continue to come up out of the lake, the ice captures the bubbles and it creates kind of a texture that you can actually see from satellite imagery. It shines right back at these active satellites.
Wow. And so talk to me, in terms of because I'm sure a lot of people like me have the same questions. Like, how do we relate that back to our daily lives? Like what you guys are doing out there, what you're finding, what are some of the things that we can learn from that and then moreover apply to the decisions that we make to positively benefit your findings rather than adding to some of the stress levels of the environments that you're working in?
For sure. So, I mean, it's always worth considering human-made emissions in situations like this. I mean, in this environment, you've got natural methane that's coming up and being added to the atmosphere. As humans are adding additional greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, and it's affecting the world as we know it. So, for example, this lake wasn't 50 years ago, and I think that's very telling of what's happening with our environment right now. And so, I mean,
Wow.
it's also conscientious of, I mean, like some of the other people on during the live we're talking about. I mean, just being conscientious of the products you use and how much you drive, and just, you know, trying to be a better steward for your planet and try to conserve environments like this.
Amazing. And so what is that device behind you? And talk to us a little bit about some of the tools that you use and how you guys use it. I'm interested in how NASA does what NASA does.
Yeah, so Nick is our equipment guy, so I'm going to let him explain that.
Yeah, so as I said, NASA flies over in these lines, these transects across the boreal and Arctic region, and it's looking at these different ecotypes and transects. And so we actually apply the same principles by using laser absorption spectroscopy to understand the flux of these greenhouse gases as they're coming out of the environment. And so you can see that it's connected to a chamber that's on collars that essentially we can measure the flux of this specific type of vegetation, because each of these vegetations are going to show up differently in the spectral imaging that NASA is flying over. And so we're taking these ground truth level site observations and then upscaling them to see what NASA's looking at from above, hence the name. And we're also capturing the gas inside of vials, which...
So we've got our sampling kit here, and here's an example of what...
Yeah, so all carbon has an age associated with it, like a fingerprint. And so we can tell how old the carbon is. And a lot of it's tens of thousands of years old that's now bubbling out of the lake. And so we're looking at the flux and the emission and the magnitude and the age. And we're also, in the middle of the lake, there's a eddy covariance tower, which is measuring the whole footprint of this lake.
It's kind of that thing that's sitting out in the middle of the lake. It looks like it's on a raft. So that's actually measuring the emissions from the lake as a whole.
Yeah, and so if you think about it, all of these different ecotype measurements are then nested into a larger regional scale. And because there's 3 million of these lakes and the permafrost covers 25% of the northern hemisphere, you need satellites and airborne missions to capture all of that. And so we go out and find ecotypes and systems that represent the larger regional systems. So it's like a puzzle, and each little ecotype is a puzzle piece. But unlike the puzzle at home, these pieces are actually changing in shape and size. And so you need to actually integrate all of them, but study all of these puzzle pieces together to get a larger image. And so NASA is providing unprecedented coverage of the Arctic as it's changing.
And so let me ask you guys this, you know, Nick and Natalie, if you guys had to leave people on one note, you know what I mean? You get to experience the world almost in a prehistoric, real time, you know, that we're not so fortunate to see. You know, you get to have this perspective that the rest of the world doesn't, in terms of how what we're doing impacts the world around us. So if you could leave us, each in your own words, with one thing, you know, based off of your work, off of your findings and your experiences, what would you say to your brothers, your sisters, your, you know, co-humans on this planet?
I would say stay curious, like be curious about the world around you, because I mean, this is the future. This is how we learn to understand and how we can make decisions, is by learning more about our world. So if you're interested in science, if you're interested in anything, even if you don't have a science background, feel free to email a scientist or just, you know, read some articles. And it's just, you know, any information that you feel like you can provide, because we have citizen scientists that'll come up and tell us, you know, hey, I've got this pond in my backyard that just keeps on growing. So every observation helps.
Yeah, and I would say
Amazing.
if you're sitting at home wondering how to get more involved, join a STEM field, because maybe you're really good at computer science and we're building such large data sets that we're going to need people to synthesize these and put these together. And so a lot of that's going to come from machine learning, from computer science, from engineering. And so I would say, you know, get involved. You can actually visit the NASA website at above.nasa.gov to find out more about how NASA works on environmental science projects, because I think it's safe to say NASA's favorite planet is Earth. It's pretty awesome.
Amazing. I can't think of a better note to end on than that. Natalie, Nick, thank you so much for what you guys are doing, for being able to relate it back to us. You know, I think the over 10,000 people watching right now, they would join you in that stink, because honestly, it's beautiful from what we're looking at right now. So thank you guys.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
All right, check in with you soon. All right. Wow. I've never seen what just popped up there right there. When we checked out with them, it said remove NASA. I don't know if that's something I want to do ever in life. But how incredible is it? You know, we've checked in all over the world. We're kind of like the Captain Planet superheroes and heroines of like this digital age right now has the ability to bring all of our stories together, and it gets to make you the hero at home. By what Natalie and Nick just said, by staying curious, by learning, by reading, and then more importantly, applying what you're learning and reading, we get to be the superheroes of our own stories. You know, like that scene in Armageddon when Bruce Willis pushed Ben Affleck back into there, and then he went and blew up the asteroid. We all love hero stories. We get to be the heroes of our own stories. Be Bruce Willis. Push Ben Affleck back into the space shuttle. Send him back to Earth and blow up that asteroid. What I'm speaking of metaphorically is save our planet. Make responsible decisions. Listen to NASA. Listen to these conservationists. Listen to these sanctuaries, because they're in the front lines, and apply what they're learning back into your daily life. And on that note, I want to jump over into Europe, where we're going to be visiting with the Wildlife Trust. All right, you guys ready to get over there? You guys ready to have some tea, jump across the pond? I'm pretty sure Mark knows who we're visiting with, you know, since they all know each other over there. Let's go say hello, mates. Sorry, I'm getting loopy.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
England.
All right, hold on a second. Something's happening. I'm a little bit frozen, but can you guys see me? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys see who we're on with? Yeah?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to England.
Where are we? What are we doing today?
I'm Emily. I work for the Wildlife Trust, and we're here at Fingringhoe Wick Nature Reserve, which is one of the Wildlife Trust's 2,300 nature reserves in the UK. And this one's actually really special because 60 years ago, it was a gravel works. So everything you can see behind me, kind of all of this would have been dug up, and it was all dug up for sand and gravel. And now, after a lot of hard work, volunteers' effort and conservation, it's an amazing nature reserve. And you can see the beautiful view behind me. That's the estuary out there. So you would have previously seen boats going out here carrying gravel and sand straight down to London. And now we just get to look at that amazing view, and all we get to see is wading birds going out in the intertidal marshes and the salt marshes out there.
That part of the program that you guys are doing, or is it part of like a preservation town? You said that was how many?
So we acquired the site 60 years ago, and people said it was kind of a barren and lunar landscape.
Are we still on? I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. My area is frozen. So Emily, talk to us about some of the work that you guys are doing. Talk about what your efforts are in right now in preserving those wild spaces. She's gone? Okay. Let me see if I can add her again. All right. Do we have you?
Are we back?
I might your phone because mine's frozen.
So
yeah,
what the Wildlife Trust does is we protect wildlife, and we protect wild spaces like these nature reserves, and we also restore and reconnect up the landscape, land and at sea. So we try and connect up our landscape. We want to make the UK more nature rich. We want to bring back biodiversity in the UK. And we want to inspire a lifelong love of nature in everyone. We want people to realise the amazing wildlife that we have.
Amazing. So talk to us about that you're finding out there, and then talk about some efforts in doing that? Are you using, you know, that you guys are celebrating? I think we may have lost her. My phone's frozen, so.
Third time lucky.
Let me see. Okay.
I'm back.
I think.
So yeah, this landscape was barren. It was lunar,
you back, Emily?
and now we have all sorts of wildlife here. So we want people to realize that you can really transform landscapes. So I've got a little stag beetle head here that I found. And this is the UK's largest beetle. It gets to about 8 centimeters. And yes, it's sad that it's found just a head, but it means that something ate it. So a badger or a fox or something, a big bird of prey's come along and eaten it. So that's great that we have that here. And whilst I'm talking about the other little things that we have, I found this little guy earlier. So he's not very happy with me now, but that's a little peacock caterpillar. And we need people to realize the importance of the insects that we have on this nature reserve. So this is a peacock caterpillar. He looks pretty vicious, but he's going to be this beautiful red with bright blue and yellow spots. So he's going to be a big butterfly soon. And then when we have all these insects, it means that we have rare species as well. So this site in particular is amazing for nightingales, which is the UK's most iconic songbird. And here we have over 42 pairs of nightingales currently breeding that have come all the way over from Africa. They've crossed the Sahara, they've crossed all the way over to Europe, and they've come over here to breed. So that's amazing that we're able to have these landscapes and provide a home for them.
Wow, that's incredible. And so if people want to get involved in what you're doing, you know, using that rewilding as a model for conservation, because habitat loss is one of the biggest contributors, you know, to the demise of animals, what can people do? Like, how can people join your efforts specifically over in the UK, where I'm sure a lot of people are watching right now?
As people have been saying, all the other people saying, the littlest things matter. So realize what you have. If you're lucky enough to have a garden, look outside, see what you can have, learn what you can do to make your garden more wildlife friendly, so you can turn your garden into a mini nature reserve. And then if you want to see some of the incredible ambassador species we have wildlife webcams on the Wildlife Trust website, where you can watch ospreys, you can watch family of badgers, you can watch barn swallows, barn owls, all sorts of animals live 24/7, and you can see them raise their young. And then we want people to just take that next step and do something in their local community. So the Wildlife Trust have over 38,000 members, and we're a movement of over 820,000 members, and we're all trying to do our bit for the environment. So join your local Wildlife Trust, see what activities, what events are going on, see what you can do to protect the wildlife where you live.
Amazing. I love that. And Emily, I want to know your personal story. You know what I mean? Like, we're so lucky in that we're getting to do this right now. We're getting to talk to all these amazing, inspiring voices. Like, what pushed you into that world? What pushed you into the outdoors and so close to the city? You know what I mean? Like, what is your background?
I always loved animals, but I didn't know about all these amazing species that were there. So it takes these huge ambassador species, like we saw the amazing rhinos and the monkeys, to fall in love. And then I volunteered. I volunteered around the world, and I saw the amazing conservation work happening. And then I found out that the best thing you can do is volunteer locally where you live. So I got involved when I came back home, and then I just found out that there's so many opportunities. And every day I have amazing wild.
Maybe we just lost her. I'm going to bring her back in really quick. No worries. Let's see if we can get Em back in here.
We want people to
hey, there,
find
we
out
got
what you can do locally. Go to the Wildlife Trust website. If you're in the UK, learn how to turn your garden into a mini nature reserve. And yeah, join us. We want to make a wilder future, and we want to bring nature back in the UK.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And can you
We've
show
got
us that
this
scenery one
scrub,
more
which
time?
isn't the most
What
glamorous
we're
of
taking in
habitats,
right
but
now and
that's
what
what
you're
the
looking at.
nightingale needs to breed. Then we've got this beautiful oak tree. We've got more paths and scrub, and then out to the coal nestery, where I don't know if you can hear, but there's birds singing around.
Amazing. Emily, I just want to personally thank you so much for your efforts, for the inspiration of, because like you said before, like we're constantly looking for these big, beautiful, the obvious ambassadors. But what you're doing right there is showing us that no matter where you look, nature is all around us. And it's an opportunity to appreciate even the little things, so thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing your backyard. And if there's anything else you want to leave people with, an inspiring
Just get
story or
outside,
last
spend
word,
time in
like,
nature. We know
go
how
for it.
important nature is for your well-being. So just even take 5 minutes to do a little activity. Open your windows right now, listen to the bird song, just get out there, enjoy it. You'll feel so much better for doing it.
Amazing. Great, great.
Thank
Keep
you.
it up,
Bye,
Emily. You're an
everyone.
inspiration. Thank you so much for joining us today. How wild is that? Sorry for the technical difficulties. We've been on for over an hour now. And to the people that have been watching since the beginning, to the people that are still around and even checked in halfway through, thank you guys so much. Again, it's because of your support. It's because of your subscriptions to Nat Geo that we keep bringing you these wildlife adventures. It's what we love to do. And it's because of you guys supporting us that I get to have a job. So I would love to stay in the field. Every time I come back, I smell like Bigfoot's toenail clippings. I've got chocolate all over my shirt, and I'm as happy as I can possibly be because I get to bring you guys stories from all over the world, from these 7 continents that we're experiencing right now live. And so for this last place, we're going to visit a beautiful island, a chain of islands in the South Pacific in Oceania. And it's a place that I got to go and see the humpback whales. I got to dive with multiple sets of moms and babies. These beautiful, charismatic creatures travel over into the South Pacific to give birth. However, we're going to be talking about some of the smallest living creatures over there that are vital, that are absolutely important for the preservations of millions of species in the water. We're going to jump over with coral gardeners. I'm going to add them right now. Just sent the invites. Hey. We just checked in on somebody's living room watching. That was a nice surprise. Thank you for joining National Geographic Live. You look like you were having a nice meal, but that was not the right person. So coral gardeners, let's add them. Waiting for coral gardeners. Hey, that looks right. What's happening, brother?
Yeah, everything's all right on my
I'm
island
awesome,
too.
man. How are you? Beautiful, beautiful. Man, I'm jealous. I mean, I'm loving base camp right now, but you're standing in the ocean looking at a sunrise.
Sure.
Dude, flip the
I'm
camera around.
located
What are
right
we
now
looking
in
at?
French
Show us
Polynesia
your
on
right
the
now.
island of Moorea. So it's the sister island of Tahiti. It's early morning here. I'm here with my friend Tayano. He's planting corals. And everything's all right on our beautiful little island here.
Amazing. So talk to us about coral gardeners, man. This is something that you started. This is something that you're passionate about. Like, what's your story? Why did you start this? And how have you
Thank you,
seen the
brother.
transformation of
So,
other people's
as I'm
lives since you've
concerned,
done that?
I was born on a little remote atoll in Tuamotu Archipelago. So it's still in French Polynesia country. And my parents, they were pearl farmers. So they were harvesting the Tahitian black pearls. And at the age of 3, I moved to this island, Moorea, where I am today. And I've been in the water surfing a lot, free diving and fishing since I'm a little kid. So the ocean, the coral reef became my playground. And when I was 16, about 5-6 years ago, I took my little boat to go surfing with my island friends. And we arrived at the surf spot. And as we were waiting for waves, we saw some white spots under our feet. And with Tayano, with my little brother, we were shocked, like, what's going on? And we start realizing that there's white spot of corals that was bleach coral, and they were dying. So that day I start realizing that this was happening here, but everywhere around the world, and that coral reef were giving me everything in my life. So I wanted to do something, and we started Coral Gardeners.
Man, that's incredible. That's truly inspiring and at such a young age. And what your story excites me is that you got into this because you were living life. You were doing something that you love, which is surfing, which is being in the ocean, and then you saw a problem and you found a way to address it. Can you show us some of the coral that you're working with, some of, what
For
Coral
sure, bro.
Gardeners does? I would
The
love to
first coral
see,
I planted
your
was
garden
when I
right
was
now.
16 years old. After school, I was going in my little garden, my coral garden in front of the house, and that's where we are today with my island friend Tayano. We grew up together. We learned how to surf together, and that's my little coral nursery in front of my house. We have some main ones over there on the north coast of our island, but this is my baby corals here.
Wow, man, that is gorgeous. Dude, I can't keep a single flower in my
Yeah, bro.
apartment, let
And
alone like
the
corals
first coral I
underwater. Man,
planted when
you
I
guys
was
do it.
16 years old was maybe the size of this one. I'll show you. It was a little bit smaller than my hand. And I came back a couple years later, and it was maybe 5 times the size. You have some crabs, you have some fish in it. And that's what stimulated me to do more. And then I went to college, and I didn't find my place doing college. So I called my parents. I say, sorry, guys, tomorrow I won't be at school. I drop out, and I called my buddy Staiano, my little brother, and I told them, guys, I want to do something for our reef ecosystem. And Tayano was on. So we started removing the bed of my bedroom, putting our ideas together. And then the team grew, and now we have scientists, we have research center helping us. And yeah, we are living one of our dreams. Yeah.
Man, that's incredible, dude. So just for a second again, because I'm sure we're all jealous watching at home, flip the camera around and show us like
Sure.
what you're
So
looking at
the
right
island of
now and
Moria
what
is
the
it's a
island of
tour
Morea
island
looks
tour
like.
of 60 kilometers. I know some of you guys are talking in miles, but yeah, it's a little island. It's 20 minutes boat from the island of Tahiti. It's more famous than Moria. And here we have the Tahitian culture. It's a beautiful culture where people they are really connected to our ocean, to our ecosystem. They are fishermen, surfers, like the family of Tayano. They are fishermen since generations, so they live thanks to the fish. They sell it in front of the road. They eat fish for morning, breakfast, and lunch, dinner. And basically, that's the reef feeding us here. And look at this, bro. That's the coral I planted 4 years ago. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man, that's spectacular. Dude, that is wild. Can you pick up another one? Like, I want to see one of those red pieces right there. If it's not going to disturb it, can you show us like close? Because for some people watching, they've never even seen coral. You know what I mean? Living species that this is an animal and it provides for other species. So can you
Sure, I will.
big
So
beautiful red
these are the
and show
coral I
what that looks
planted
like?
over 4 years ago when I was at high school, and now they are way bigger. They were really small, but I will find you a beautiful red coral. We have some of my favorites here. The Pocillopora, yeah, bro. This one is beautiful. So this one is a Pocillopora verrucosa. It's one of my favorite coral. You have a lot of crabs living in it, and you can find them at the outside reef, outer reef after the waves. And well, that's one of my favorite coral. Well, we call it verrucosa because you can see little bumps on it. And this coral is one of the reef builder, and it's really important. Yeah, you go, bro.
Man, that's spectacular. And then you guys have a couple of bleached coral, right? Like, do you have some of the pieces where it looks like when the coral's been destroyed and when it's gotten bleached? Because we saw how vibrant, how beautiful, how full of life that piece was.
Exactly.
But
I
then
will,
do
I
you
will
have
show you the
some
contrast
on the other side
with
as
this
well?
coral. So this one was bleaching because due to the global warming, coral reef are dying, the rising temperatures of the water. And even here on the little island of Moorea in French Polynesia, we have some corals which are bleaching. As soon as the water temperature is changing, the coral are stressed and they are weak and they can't survive. So this one was healthy a couple months ago, and now after the bleaching, this one is starting to die. You see the little bad algae at the top, the green spots. That's the bad algae killing the coral when it's too weak and can't survive. Yeah, and that's why we exist. Yeah, we don't want the coral to be like this one. This one is dead. So we have the bleaching step, and after, if the water temperature is not dropping, the coral will be like this, brown, covered by algae. Means it's all dead. Yeah, and I don't want my coral garden in front of my house to look like this. So that's why we started the project. Yeah.
I don't blame you, man. That's spectacular. It's amazing that you guys, aren't just surfers, aren't just dependent on the ocean, but now you're doing serve the ocean. So thank you for your efforts. If you can, I want to know, the other people watching this want to get involved with what you're doing. If we can help out your efforts.
For sure, yeah. The signal is
you
not
guys
really good, but for all the people around the world, we want to support us in our journey to save coral reef, because that's only the start of something bigger. We are the island kids of Moorea, surfer fishermen, now working with some experts, and we are really lucky, learning a lot. But one day our dream will be to scale up our project around the world and have some people in Indonesia and in Egypt, in Philippines, Australia, the locals taking care of the reef, restoring it, creating jobs, and involve the local communities. So when I was starting the project about 3 years ago, I found a really cool concept where people from all around the world can help us. They can adopt a piece of coral. So online on our website, coralgardeners.org, people can adopt for $29 a piece of coral like this. They name it. We named Nat Geo for this one. We planted yesterday with the team, and they receive this adoption certificate. And you see that's the little fish helping us clean the nursery. But
wow, so you've already coming in, you've already got animals appreciating what you guys
thank you for your support, and come visit us in Tahiti when you have time. Let's go plant corals, bro.
Dude, let's go
For
surfing.
sure.
Let's plant some corals, man. I can't wait to see you guys out there.
Issue. It affects all of us. Half of the oxygen we breathe is coming from the organism in the ocean doing the photosynthesis, and no reef, no ocean, no air. And so that's why we need to care it. Thank you, everyone. Cheers, brother. Bye-bye. Nana.
Couldn't have said it better. Cheers. Thank you guys for your efforts, guys. Cheers. Wow. All right. There you have it. For the first time in history, you guys, crack the champagne, because we did something that's never been done before. An Instagram live from around the world, from all 7 continents, jumping inside of the world of explorers, of scientists, conservationists, photographers, storytellers, and more importantly, human beings. I love what I get to do as a National Geographic Explorer, because it reminds me that there is so much more that we have in common than what separates us. And it's important to remember that when we travel, when we think about brothers and sisters around the world, about our neighbors, and that we can always find solutions for the challenges that we're going through as human beings if we come together, we set our differences aside, and we realize that we are all in this together. And if today showed us anything, it's that we are capable of anything. The technology that we've advanced as human beings allows us to connect on a level that no other species has done in history. So let's embrace, let's celebrate our challenges, what makes us different, how far we've come as a species to be able to connect on these levels, and let's go forward and let's preserve our big, beautiful blue planet. And again, my name is Philippe D'Andrade. I'm a National Geographic Explorer. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. And again, it's because of your subscriptions to natgeo.com/Instagram why we can bring you these stories. So thank you guys. I want to throw a huge shout out to Nature Trust of the Americas and their patients for their base camp. Mark and Rebecca, come over here. Say hi to all the people watching at home because they donated their space and their beautiful Nat Geo magazines.
Hi, everybody.
How can people get involved with what Nature Trust is doing?
Follow us on Instagram at Nature Trust of the Americas and sign up on our website at ntota.org. It's ntota.org. And be safe, everybody. And
we love you guys.
We love you. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. All right, wildlife warriors, stay wild. Thank you for joining me, and let's do it again soon. That's a jaguar call. I don't know.